Hello and welcome to this video, and on this video I'm going to be going through what I think are the 10 greatest rock guitar heroes in history, ranking them from 10 all the way down to 1. So what's a rock guitar hero? Well, of course they've got to be able to play the guitar. Of course, they've got to be able to get on stage and perform. They've got to look cool. They've got to have charisma. And of course, they've got to be able to whip out a guitar solo if they really need to do. You know, we need to have some classic guitar solos here. They got to look cool. They got to walk cool. They got to talk cool. They just got to be cool. Coolness is very important here. We're not after virtuosity. There's going to be no Alan Holdsworths or John McLaughlin's on this list, I'm afraid. These are rock guitar heroes. And I have been worrying over this list. I did do it, I think, many years ago I did this list. And I'm pretty sure it's changed quite drastically here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each guitar hero, starting at 10. I will point you to the track that I think you should listen to if you're not aware of that guitar hero, the sort of classic track that you should go and listen to. And I will also pull out an album, which that track is on. It's quite simple, really. You know, you'll get the hang of it if you've never seen it before. And of course, if you've been here before, you know exactly what's going on here, don't you? So, shall we just start off and get straight into it? Last year, I think it was, the band Extreme proved that we still needed a guitar hero. All that stuff out there on the internet to watch, all those Instagram guitarists sitting there with that, you know, that sort of Instagram guitarist tan, i.e. really pale, sat front of there with their guitar up here playing some ridiculous fast stuff. Nobody cares. We want someone with cheekbones. We want somebody with bloody tight trousers on with some bloody moves. Now, Extreme came out with this album last year. The first track was a track called Rise. And Nuno Bettencourt, who was like nearly bloody 60 years old when he came out doing this, but still looked like a guitar hero, because guitar heroes never die, do they? I mean, Keith Richards, look at him. He's not on the list, though, because they've got to be able to pull out a decent guitar solo for my list, I'm afraid. You know, Pete Townshend's not on it. There's a whole bunch of them that are bloody cool. They're really cool, but they've got to be able to play to get onto my list. You know how I am. These are all amazing guitar players in my book as well, and I love listening to their guitar playing. So, which I can't say about Keith Richards. You know, I don't want to be knocking Keith straight away. I should be telling you all about Nuno Bettencourt. So, yeah, they come out. They've got a cool video, and it's like one of those things where it gets to the guitar solo, and it just drops, the tracks drops out, Nuno steps forth, and he comes out with all this stuff, and the thing is, it's incredible. Everybody, like Rick Beato, all of them, how's he doing it? What's going on? What's Nuno doing? It fooled and foxed everybody. This is one of the things that great guitar heroes have. Great guitarists just come out and blow you away with their chops and technique, but so often, a great guitar hero will come out with something and it's like, you go, I've never heard this before. What is this magic? What is this witchcraft of which this guitar hero with his cheekbones and tight trousers is spinning around my head at the moment? What's going on? And we all felt that with Nuno. What is he doing? And the thing is that made that guitar solo so good, which Nuno Bettencourt is so brilliant at, is he has an idea about great songwriting. Not everyone does, you know. They're just there waiting. They're waiting with big hair, waiting just to step forward and blow you away with their chops. Nuno's not like that. He's into the songwriting, and he makes guitar solos fit the song as part of the song. And so they take you on a journey. And the guitar solo of Rise, I think, is important. And this is probably why I've gone and done this video again, because I feel that I am going to elevate Nuno into the pantheon of the immortal. He is now ascending up to Mount Olympus, you know, to that special zone in Mount Olympus where Jimi Hendrix is sat and bloody, you know, Chuck Berry's there. They're all the great pantheon of great guitar heroes. And Nuno's said it. I'm not saying he's dead. He's still alive. You know, I know he's getting on. I'm not saying he's going to die or anything. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying it's like this is the imaginary Mount Olympus, you know. But if you got up to the Mount Olympus, say, and you went, hello, can I come in? Why? I want to go to the guitar hero section. Oh, yeah, okay, then. Down there to the left, yeah, go past the classic rock drummers, yeah. Oh, no, Keith Moon's playing up, just ignore him. You know, so that's what we've got at number 10, isn't it? Is Nuno Bettencourt with the track rise off the album. What's this one called? 6, is it? Is that what it's called? 6. Anyway, I'm a product of the 1980s, the early 1980s. I'm a product of that new wave of British heavy metal. That's what spun my ear on its side, and that's what got me into music. And when I first came into music, we had our guitar heroes, you see. And there was some new guitar heroes coming out. It's I would love to put them all on here. Uli, John Roth, Michael Schenker. There's a whole bunch of them I'd like to put on here at this point. And I had to choose one of that group, of the early 80s group. And the one I've decided to go for, because he was around for such a short time, and I think this is the guy that really, I mean, Uli John Roth was doing it to some extent, but this is the guy that ushers in that sort of neoclassical sound, which is going to dominate the 1980s sort of rock guitar playing, and it is, of course, Randy Rhoads. Now, Randy Rhoads, of course, emerged first in Quiet Riot. A little fella, look at he's so tiny. I mean, Ozzy's holding him up in the air. I mean, it's so sad. It's the first time I've looked at that cover and realised they're both gone now. See, time moves on. Anyway, he starts off in Quiet Riot, gets a name for himself. He comes at the same time as Eddie Van Halen. There seems to be some sort of a competition between the two, but they're doing something. They're two different players completely. Randy Rhoads then gets drafted in to Ozzy's band. Ozzy's in a bad way, you know, and his wife. Sharon is trying to relaunch his career. She's sort of taken him away from her dad, Don Arden, who apparently got very angry and set some dogs on her, you know, which I think is a bit mean. You know, if my dad had done that to me, you know, because I hadn't done something he liked, you know, made a mess of the garden, I would have been quite shocked. But anyway, in the Arden house, that was what they did. So she buggers off with Ozzy. And at that point, really, Ozzy should have made a terrible album without the Black Sabbath guys, without the genius of Tony Iommi. He should have made a crappy album and disappeared from view. That's what we would have expected to happen to Ozzy. But no. He gets in partnership with Randy Rhoads. And Randy Rhoads he's not Tony Iommi. That's the thing. He doesn't play like it's not Black Sabbath. It's Black Sabbath with these big meaty riffs, and Randy Rhoads didn't do big meaty riffs. He did very mincy, like choppy, you know, in your face riffs, very architectural, a lot of chord work in there, obviously a lot of neoclassical runs and stuff like this. And he plays on a couple of albums, Blizzard of Oz, you know, Bark at the Moon. And he becomes one of the great guitar heroes at that time, you know, and I never went to see him. I had some mates went up to Birmingham and saw Ozzy with Randy Rhoads, and he, you know, I would have loved to have seen Randy Rhoads. Anyway, he gets taken up, they're on tour, he gets taken up in some aeroplane. He didn't want to do it because Randy was quite a sensible chap by the sound of it. And that's something that's sad, is that, you know, it's as though, Randy Rhoads, he joins Ozzy Osbourne, they're all rock and roll. He gets in an airplane, he tries to dive bomb Ozzy, the plane loses control and he kills himself, you know, and it's a terrible thing. But actually Ozzy, I think Randy Rhoads was quite sensible, and he's been tarred with a brush that he shouldn't have. Now, what track are we going to have? This is the album that Ozzy then put out. It's a whole bunch of live stuff here. I Don't Know, Crazy Train Believer, Mr. Crowley, Flying High Again, Revelation, Suicide Solution, but also they're doing Iron Man, Children of the Grave, Paranoid, No Bone Movies, and it finishes off with a studio outtake version of D. This is the album. This is the tribute put together by Ozzy. This one's made out of love, this album is. I think I'm going to go with Mr. Crowley. It was the one that blew me away when I first heard Blizzard of Oz. So that's what we've got at number 9. At number 8, this guy is in one of the biggest bands in the world, and I think his guitar playing's underrated. I don't think people really get how great this bloke is. At number 8, I've got Angus Young, and I am going to put forth Let There Be Rock, and I've gone for the live version of If You Want Blood. Angus Young, right? I think that Angus is perhaps my favourite blues guitarist, because that's what he is. He's a blues guitarist and he plays like that. And within that, he's got a whole bunch of shtick which he's taken from Chuck Berry. He goes right back to early rock and roll guitar playing. But when you listen to him, the way his guitar works, especially against his brother, who was a great guitar player, and Malcolm did some great guitar solos, in the early days of AC/DC. But with those simple block chords that are being played in such a unique way by Malcolm, Angus is not necessarily just doing, you know, C, A, and E, or G, or whatever it is, or D over F, you know, which is that's basically all you need to do AC/DC. No, he's doing other stuff, and it's always so innovative. Now, I have always felt, listen to him, that you can put a live album on, and you know that he's headbanging, and he's doing the duck walk around the stage, spinning around on the spot. You listen to that guitar playing, it's absolutely solid. And that's where the virtuosity is. And when you listen to the picking and you listen to the attack, there is never a note going wrong. This guy has got chops. This guy could play fast, alternate pick. He had it all down. Angus is one of the greats. Not only is he so iconic as a guitar hero, and of course he's iconic in a way which no other guitar hero is. It's so unique and weird. I mean, we take it for granted, you know. Someone, a really small guy, was he 5'2", something like that? Dressed up as a schoolboy, running around, showing his arse at the audience, you know, all that type, you know, Gibson SG looking too big for him, absolutely iconic. But I have to say, you know, when you put this album on, If You Want Blood, and put on the Jack. Now the Jack is a slow 6/8 blues about the sort of diseases that only rock and roll stars could catch whilst on the road, if you know what I'm saying. And he plays the blues. I like my blues to have some spice. It's all great, the Eric Claptons and Dave Gilmours, and you know those guys that we have in the UK, and they're very serious, they're middle class, and they do play very beautifully, and I do love it. I could listen to someone play the blues. I don't need the jazz notes. I don't. Right? Angus plays the blues, and it's got some fire, and it's got some balls. And you know what sort of balls he's got? One's for fancy dress. That's what he's got. That's who I've got at number 8. At number 7, and we are really in the pantheon of greats now. From Angus on, these are the greats. At number 7, I've got Tony Iommi. I'm offering the second album, Paranoid, and the track War Pigs. When I was a kid, what I loved about War Pigs was the fact that when the guitar solos came in, it just dropped down to guitar, bass, and drums, and it had an exploratory nature to it, which I think comes straight from Cream. Geezer Butler's playing very Jack Brucey all over the place, and there's a freedom, there's like a jazz freedom there. Now, of course, I can go on about all the bloody classic riffs that Tony Iommi does here, and his sort of trademark overdub guitar solos. I don't think anyone else does this. He'll do a guitar solo, right, and then he overdubs it, but he doesn't quite get it right. It's roughly right, but you have these two guitars sort of working together, and they're doing the same sort of thing, but not quite. It's absolutely wonderful. That's all over this album, but I think there's a freedom that Black Sabbath were a fantastic band. Bill Ward was an exploratory jazz drummer. Geezer Butler was very, you know, Jack Bruce, Chris Squire-esque. Big, thick, heavy sound, but able to. I mean, I think he was a guitar player. I think this is the thing. He's almost strumming his way through the bass. And Tony Iommi, who has the sound, who invents heavy metal, who has that thick Gibson sound, humbucking pickups, and thick distortion, and sounds absolutely incredible. And you feel that with his plastic fingers, there's a connection to the guitar, which is very hard. It's very hard indeed. And those strings are light, and you feel like you can bend them off. You know, there's something wonderful about Tony Iommi's playing. I've always loved his playing. As time goes on, he gets more and more experimental. He used to have these strange acoustic pieces, all sorts of wonderful stuff. Tony Iommi, one of the greatest rock guitarists in history, absolute legend. Who's better than Tony Iommi? Well, it has to be, for me, another guitarist that gets a bit of criticism nowadays. He did it when I was a kid. Everyone thought he was an absolute wizard. But now he seems to get a bit of criticism. Why? Because he's a little bit messy. I don't mind a little bit messy. Of course, it's Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, and I'm putting forth, believe it or not, Stairway to Heaven. Because in the end, who has ever done a guitar solo better than Stairway to Heaven? Well, a few people have, but it's still a really good guitar solo. And again, this is classic Guitar Hero stuff. You've got this great big track, and there's an architecture to that track, and it's building, and it's building. And then at a certain point when you're up here, Jimi takes it over, and he takes you right up here, and he lands you right at the hysterical point. And it's so iconic, absolutely iconic. So many guitarists have learnt this note for note. Stairway to Heaven's guitar solo occupies a space which Hotel California does, I think, and Romeo and Juliet to some extent by Dire Straits. It's one of those things that guitarists who, they want to be able to play it. It's a wonderful, and for me, it's better than Hotel California because they've got bloody John Bonham on drums and Robert Plant and Jimi and John Paul Jones. So that's who I've got, or whatever number that would be. Now, what number is he? Old Pagey. Is he 5 or 4? Don't know. Right. Who have you got next? Right, so at number 4, no, at number 5, isn't it? At number 5, I've got Chuck Berry. God knows what this album is. This is my Chuck Berry album. I've had this since I was a kid. I loved rock and roll when I was a kid, and I loved Chuck Berry, and I got my mum and dad to buy this in the 70s. It's got Sweet Little Rock and Roller, Really Rocking, Back in the USA, 30 Days. What it hasn't got on here, which I just thought it would have, would be Johnny Be Good. And I've pulled it out assuming it hasn't. It's got Reeling and Rocking, Back to Memphis, Good Night, Well It's Time to Go, Oh Baby Doll, Back in the USA, 30 Days, I Do Really Love You, My Heart Will Always Belong to You, and Good Looking Woman. But in my mind, because I haven't played this for over 40 years, in my mind it got Johnny Be Good. Now Johnny Be Good it's the legend of the rock guitar hero wrought into a song by the guy that really creates the idea of the guitar hero. Now he does it. He gets it from T-Bone Walker. But T-Bone Walker's a blues guitarist, and he doesn't have the sort of country-esque influence in there that Chuck had. And also Chuck's rock and roll. He's not blues. He can play the blues, but he's got a lot going on. There's a lot of choppy guitar playing in there. That's coming out of Charlie Christian, it's coming out of the big bands, but so is T-Bone Walker. Absolutely. I mean, look at his face there. Look at that face. Of course, later on, you know, he was sticking cameras all over the place, wasn't he? And shooting up certain places he shouldn't have been shooting up and doing all sorts of dodgy things, wasn't he? And it sort of maligned his influence a little bit. But he's the first rock and roll guitar hero. Without a doubt, it's Chuck Berry. Might be the inventor of bloody rock and roll if you think about it, with old Maybelline. So we are now down to the last 4. Okay, and this is what's been causing me trouble. And it's this bloke here that's been causing me trouble at number 4. I feel like he should go even higher. In fact, there's an argument that I could almost put this bloke at number 1. When it comes to guitar heroes, this is my guitar hero. When I was coming up, it wasn't Eric Clapton, it wasn't even Jimi Hendrix. When I first got into music, the guitar hero, it wasn't Jimmy Page, it wasn't even Tony Iommi. Who was the guitar hero? Come on, anyone's my age. You remember in the UK, Kerrang, about 3 issues in, right, had the sort of top 100 guitarists. Who came in at number 1? And it was obviously they were going to come in at number 1. This guy has become underrated. It used to be that people just thought that this bloke was the greatest guitarist in the world. I did when I was a kid. It is, of course, Ritchie Blackmore. This is the bloke that starts off with the Outlaws. He starts off with Joe Meek back in the early 60s. He plays with the whole thing. He's in the same bracket as Hendrix and Clapton and Jeff Beck and Pete Townsend. He's one of those guys. And he's up there, he's doing incredible stuff. He loves Jimi Hendrix. He takes so much from Jimi Hendrix. But Ritchie Blackmore has his own thing going on. He's an incredible showman. He has a truculence, like a danger and a truculence on stage. You know, all dressed in black with his big pilgrim's hat on, you know, mincing around the stage. He's got a lot of this risk, you know, he's very, I don't know what the word is. You know, he flouncy. That's what Ritchie Blackmore is. Incredible guitar sound, the strap through a Marshall, loads of bloody whammy, you know, all of that. Ritchie Blackmore's the one. 1,000,000 classic riffs, 1,000,000 classic guitar solos. But on top of that, here, right, on side 4 of this album, made in Japan, we've got a tune called Space Trucking. And this one, which is the famous one, was recorded on the 16th of August 1972. And in this, Deep Purple go into this sort of hyperdrive, let's go into space. They literally get a truck and drive it into space. I mean, that's what the song's about. It's not just about trucking, it's about space trucking. And once they get in there, he comes forward and it's like almost like avant-garde music. It's almost like free jazz, noise. It could be punk, it could be prog, it could be jazz rock fusion, but it's not any of those. It's Ritchie Blackmore. It's even got a bit of neoclassical in and all that type of stuff. But he takes you, he's one of the few guitarists that can grab you around the neck like Hendrix, but he does it in his own way. We all grew up with this. He jumped from this band, he did Rainbow, and then he put Stargazer on. What an incredible track. And by the end of the 70s, early 80s, he was having pop hits. Ritchie Blackmore's the man. Around about 1980, he played at the Monsters of Rock Festival, the very first one. And on TV, it was televised on television. That's where things tend to be televised. And a very young me went to bed, climbed into the top of my bunk bed, and sat there watching a black and white television of Rainbow playing at the Monsters of Rock Guitar Festival. This is a moment for me. He starts smashing up his guitar, he rams it into his amp, he's doing all sorts of terrible things to an amp, all the sort of things your mum and dad would tell you off for, you know. And if you did something like that, they say, stop doing that, Andrew. If the electrics, that's going to probably blow up or electrocute you, burst into flames. And that's precisely what happens, doesn't it? His amp explodes. And I can remember on this black and white telly, like looking at it and trying to see what's going on. And then suddenly just think, what the hell's happening? Great big explosion comes out. Ritchie Blackmore, incredible guitar player. Love his playing. He is the man. Ritchie the Blackmore. Space Trucking. Go and check it out. And then when you've heard this one, go and get the BBC recordings of Space Trucking that were on live in concert. They're a classic. I mean, and go and see Phil Aston's YouTube, the now spinning one. Because God knows how many versions he's got of Space Trucking, old Phil. He's got to be at least 40. 40. I mean, they're all 20 minutes long, half an hour long. I mean, Phil's getting on. I don't think he's got enough time to listen to them all. He doesn't even need them, because when's he going to listen to them? He needs a good 40 or 50 years on top of his life just to get through them. Sorry, Phil. I'm sorry to, bring up the black veil of death. But I think it's only right with Ritchie, because he has that sort of thing about him, doesn't he? Let's move on quick, because I don't want to be doing a long video. I'm trying to do a short video and pack it with a lot of talking, a lot of action. This is like bang, bang, rock guitar, bang, no jazz, no faffing about, no silliness, no phones going off, just bloody YouTubing. Andy Edwards YouTubing, camera, albums, we're up and going. We don't need anything else. I haven't got my bloody stupid microphone on here. Not today. This is raw camera audio. It's not even plugged in. I've got it here. Now, this is proper YouTubing. This is down and dirty YouTubing. This is proper YouTubing. You know, watch and learn YouTubers. This is how you do it, Andy Edwards style. You don't stop, you keep talking the whole time. It's like you're one of them people on the market, you know, selling the meat. You know, one of those. I'm like that, a barker. That's what I am, a barker, not a dog. Not a dog barking, a barker that sells stuff. I come out and sell you the rock. I'm selling you rock and roll here. And we get to number 3, and I don't know whether this bloke should be on. But I think he's such a guitar hero. He's almost like, if I was going to draw a guitar hero, I ain't drawing anybody in a pilgrim's hat like Ritchie Blackmore, or wearing a school uniform like Angus Young, or walking around the stage with a great big black moustache, and an upside down. Maybe I would go for that, the Tony Iommi look. They're all classic looks, but the classic rock guitarist, if you want to know what a classic rock guitarist looks like, it looks like that. Jeff Beck. Now, Jeff Beck also happens to be one of the most incredible guitarists on the planet, right? And he is known for being a guitar player. I don't know how Jeff Beck has been able to sell millions of records, had this huge career off instrumental jazz fusion. In the early days, of course, it wasn't like that. There he was in the Arbors, and I was nearly going to put Shape of Things on. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to put Shape of Things, I'm going to put the Jeff Beck group with Rod Stewart on. I'm not going to put the Yardbirds on. I thought, well, if you're going to put a Jeff Beck track on, you may as well just have a Jeff Beck track. And I thought, well, which one shall I have? Well, you could have something off Guitar Shop. He's amazing on that. You know, and I started to go through all the sort, and then I thought, you'll go down the you know, you'll go down the muso route, Andy. This video's not about that. It's about being a guitar hero. It's about doing a guitar solo with your legs far apart, like that. That's what it's about. It's about having your guitar slightly too low, because it's what it looks like. That's walking around like that. It's like some bloody jazz fusion Instagram guitar player. No, that's what we've got. There he is in real life. Look at him. Right? This is the compromise for me, would be the beautiful, ethereal "Cause We Ended as Lovers" off this album, which is his tribute to the great guitarist Roy Buchanan. But that's another video, underrated guitarist that, you know, the guitarists love. So that's what I've got at number 3. So what we got at number 2? Well, we all know what's going to be at number 1, don't we? Jimi Hendrix is going to be at number 1. He's the one. He's going to be the one at number 1. Well, no, actually, you're wrong. So, nah, he's at number 2. I've got Jimi Hendrix at number 2, right? That is not putting Jimmy down. I feel bad now I'm here actually doing it. Now I feel like I'm doing something wrong and betraying. I'm not betraying you, Jimmy. I'm not betraying you, right? I mean, this guy is the guy. I mean, you know, look at him. Even just on a photograph like that, he looks exciting, doesn't he? Right? He burned brightly, didn't he? He burned like a comet shooting across the sky. Wasn't here for long. In that, he did more than probably any other rock musician has ever done. I believe he's the greatest rock musician in history. And I believe he is the apex. That means the peak of rock music. That climb up through the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all this sort of stuff and the experimental, we're moving towards the prog and the jazz rock fusion. But there's a certain moment where it all comes together and you've got a superstar who's playing really way out music, presenting it to an audience. Everybody loves him. He's there at Woodstock playing the Star-Spangled Banner, and it is otherworldly. It's so way out. It's avant-garde, and he pulls it off because this is the greatest rock star that's ever been. Jimmy's the man. Jimi is the man. Right? As a guitar hero, I've got whole videos on Jimi. You don't need me to tell you about Jimi Hendrix. Should we just put him down there? Because at number 1, I've decided to usurp him. And this has taken a lot of thought for me to do this, but this is what this video is about. And the reason is I think that we're so far past this guy now that we have to say, in terms of rock guitar, this is the summit of guitar hero rock guitar. This is the nuclear physics. Jimi Hendrix is the Isaac Newton of guitar heroes. This bloke's the Einstein. You know who he is, don't you? Think, who is it? Eddie Van Halen. There he is. Look at that. See, that's a guitar hero. He looks amazing. His guitar is iconic. He's got the legs apart. He's got the shirt unbuttoned, cool hair. He's in one of the greatest rock bands of all time. And this album is just ridiculous. This saved rock music, believe it or not, this did. Without this, we would have all been listening to bloody Toto and Christopher Cross. This kept rock alive at the end of the 1970s in America. We got the new wave of British heavy metal, but you Americans, you bloody invented it. And this band, this is the greatest American rock band of all time. They're incredible. And Eddie Van Halen, he is a true rock icon. He's got every single attribute you need. Absolutely everything. He reinvented guitar playing. He looks amazing. He reinvented rhythm guitar playing. He could perform on stage. He could run around, jump up in the air. He could do all that. And he had a dark side, and he died too young. I mean, I just think that I watch interviews on the net. So many different guitar players, jazz guitar players, rock guitar players, experimental musicians. There's so many of us that have a certain grounding in Eddie Van Halen. All those guitarists that came out in the 1980s, right? When guitar ruled the world, you know, in the 1980s, when you had Steve Vai, you had Joe Satriani, and you had Yngwie Malmsteen, and you had Paul Gilbert and Vinnie Moore. You know, it goes on and on. Every one of those has a career because of Eddie Van Halen and what he did to guitar playing. What he did. If you watch the recent interview, it's a fantastic interview that Rick Beato did with Bumblefoot. I've been a huge fan of Bumblefoot for many years. This is a guy that is just, he's so creative in rethinking how the guitar play, you know, how the sounds you can get out of a guitar. You know, Adrian Belew's done this, guitarists like David Torn have explored this, you know, the guitar as a synthesizer to create new sounds. Well, the fact is that in the 1980s, I don't think you could have had an Adrian Belew without an Eddie Van Halen. He changed the nature of guitar. Now, every single rock guitarist plays a guitar that's like a Strat shape, but it's got a humbucking pickup on. It's got a Floyd Rose guitar that locks, and the pickups are glued together. All of those innovations with a flat neck and all that type of stuff, all of those innovations come from Eddie Van Halen. So Jimi, yeah, incredible. In those 3 years, incredible. But what Eddie Van Halen did to music, he has to take prime place now. And I placed him at the top. And that was the reason why I did this video, was to bring Nuno Bettencourt onto the roster on Mount Olympus. And know that the Zeus, I know he was Einstein earlier, now he's the Zeus. The Zeus at the head of the rock and roll table, you know, to Mount Olympus, is Eddie Van Halen. So what's Jimi doing at their table? I don't know, he's just getting on with things, isn't he? You know, he's all right. He's got other things going for him, old Jimi has. Yeah, he's all over the place. They can't keep him there. The rest of them, Ritchie Blackmore's not there yet. Who's there out of my list? It's basically Eddie, Randy, and Jimi. They're all the rest of them alive, aren't they? Eddie, oh, and Chucky. They'll say that. They say, you're going to have to be called Chucky. I ain't going to be called Chucky. So well, you're going to have to be, you got Randy, you got Jimi, you got Eddie. You're going to have to be Chucky. I'm not going to be Chucky. Chucky's that little bloody doll thing that was bloody coming out under the bed, slicing away at people's, you know, Achilles heels. I'm not going to be that. I'm Chuck Berry. I invented the bloody thing. You wouldn't be if it wasn't for me. And now, fair enough, you know. And Jimi comes in and he goes, yeah, it's right. You are, you know, because he knew. Eddie Van Halen, he didn't listen to anybody. His big hero was Eric Clapton. He sounds nothing like him. You know, you could say he's come out of Les Paul, but I don't think he knew who he was. He's a true originator, that bloke. You know, despite the conversation that's going on at Mount Olympus. But that's what's going on up there, or in guitar heaven, or whatever you want to think, you know. And I'm sure it's like, Eddie's got a guitar out on the table, hasn't he? He's got his Allen keys out and he's having a bit of a fiddle and a setup, and he's just still pushing it, not trying to get faster, not trying to get like more out of the guitar, more perfection. No, just trying to get more sounds, trying to get more expression, trying to put a smile on people's faces because of the unexpected. Like we all had when we heard Eruption. I mean, how can that be surpassed? I have really sold this one to you. I have done it in half an hour. It's a relatively short one for me. That's the best I can possibly do. I am going to go now. So please, if you like this video, stick a subscribe on it. Right, come on, you lot who haven't subscribed. I need some subscribers. You know, I really need some subscribers to make myself feel better about myself. So subscribe, like, Patreon, membership here, PayPal tip jar if you want to give me a tip. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.